The Jackass penguin, or king penguin, is a native species to the South African coast. They originally built their nests by digging in the guano of gannets, cormorants, or the penguins themselves that accumulated in the rocky islands. But starting with the exploitation of these deposits as fertilizer in the 19th century, this has become increasingly difficult, and the penguins have begun to nest in the hollows of the rocks or in the sand on the beach. During the molting season, when penguins change their plumage, the birds take on an ugly and disorderly appearance. The new feathers push against the old ones, which fluff up and fall off gradually, giving them a sickly look, as though it were a skin infection which the penguins were enduring with their characteristic tranquility. The chicks with an ashen grey colour lose the down, which will be replaced by the closed black feathers that give penguins their smooth, waxy appearance. The early days of the southern summer are uncomfortable. The loose feathers, which haven't yet fallen off, and the quills of the replacement feathers growing underneath irritate the birds, and there is a constant scratching movement in the colony. The total population of South African penguins is estimated to be around 160,000 specimens. Human activity, primarily illegal egg collecting and excessive exploitation of fishing industry resources, which reduce the bird's feeding source, has caused the number to drop from the more than 1,200,000 specimens counted in the early 30s. Despite government protection, the future of South African penguins is still at risk. Industrial oil dumping has appeared as a new threat to an animal which spends most of its time in the ocean. Associations such as the South African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds, which holds the world record for saving the highest number of marine birds covered with oil, have made important strides, offering a ray of hope to the Jackass penguin. Thanks to its efforts, colonies such as this one on Betty's Bay have increased by more than 100 reproductive pairs. Quite an accomplishment for an animal whose numbers have been decreasing steadily since 1930. The Cape of Good Hope marks the transition point for ships between the southern Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean. Although not the most southerly point on the continent, as it is often mistakenly considered, the Cape is a historic place. The first European to go round it by ship was the Portuguese Bartolomeu Dias in 1487. Marking the opening of the maritime route to the Orient. The poor weather conditions and the terrible danger of the ocean and its shallows for navigation led Dias to baptize it the Cape of Storms. But King John II of Portugal, seeing the commercial importance of the new route which opened the way to the Indies, subsequently named it the Cape of Good Hope. While the Cape in particular and the South African coast in general are dangerous for navigation, for wildlife, they are an authentic paradise. The wealth of the union between the two oceans and the contribution of nutrients from the Benguela Current produce an extraordinary biodiversity. The environmental conditions foster the proliferation of microorganisms, which are the basis of the nourishment for coastal invertebrates like these isopods that multiply by the millions in the intertidal area.